I know there's been a growing interest in herbology and creating your own apothecary. So I wanted to highlight some mistakes that I made when I was starting out in herbology and building my at-home apothecary. I think there's a lot of people that can fall into these categories, and if you don't watch it, you can spend tons of money on something that you're just not going to use. So, number one, when I first started, I was reading a lot and researching a lot, and I was so fascinated by all the benefits that I just didn't realize that these plants had. And I wanted to buy everything that I read about. And so, not that I was buying huge amounts, but I was buying little here, little there, and that adds up, right? Yeah, it adds up. And so, that was one of the mistakes that I made, is buying herbs without really taking into consideration what I was going to use them for or use them in. Number two, think about what your family needs and what your family is going to be using. And so this will help you, it'll keep you between those guardrails when you start building your apothecary. So sit down and plan out what are some things that your family needs on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that you can replace at home. One of the big things that we use in our home that I make is my mending salve. So my mending salve is something that we use in place of Neosporin or like a all-purpose salve. And so I do make a lot of that. So I keep a lot of this on hand right here. And so if you're thinking about your family and what your family uses a lot, you're going to be less likely, like I said, number one, to go out and spend money on something that, your family just isn't going to benefit from. Number three, and this may surprise some of you, but I was not a forager. I did not go out and look at what I had around me. Instead, I was going and buying from other producers before I was looking on my property to see what I had available to me. And so before you go out and spend bukus of money on something, on maybe a plant you could already perhaps have in your yard, look around you, learn how to forage. I highly, 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 highly suggest that if you're going to get into this, if you're wanting to look into herbs, herbology, have your own apothecary, you need to learn how to forage, where to forage, and all that jive. Because in the end, it will save you money. If you've got something on your property that will help you with a certain something, that's going to save you in the long run. And also, what I made a habit of doing is cross-referencing. So what I mean by cross-referencing is that if there's a certain, let's say, skin problem, and I wanted to make a salve to help with that, and I look up and I find that, I don't know, lavender helps with it. But I don't have lavender. What am I going to do? I also look up and see if anything that I have on hand helps with that same problem instead of buying lavender, if that makes sense to you. Now, I love lavender and I usually have it on hand all the time, but I'm just saying, if you don't have a whole lot of money, the best thing to do is look, cross-reference, and see if there's a plant that you already have that may be used in the same applications. Another thing, storage. So, I use these jars a lot, okay, my canning jars. And I have a big problem because you know what? I also like to can and store food in them. So, while I use these because I have them on hand, I feel like they're more beneficial being used as canning jars. So, my suggestion is to find some of these containers with the airlock lid and use them for your storage. Now, the reason why I like these so much is because, they're pretty big, okay? And they have a slim profile, so you can actually store them pretty well together. Also, they stand up to a lot. So you're going to be spending the money on them, and they're going to last you for years. Okay. Also, many of the jars, or these right here, like this, I found on sale at local stores. And so the best way to save money on these is just to look and see if they're on sale anywhere. And another big one, I found many of mine at secondhand stores, antique stores, flea markets. Those are some great places to look for storage containers. And you know what? Not all of them look the same. I have some that look like this. I have some that are, smaller. I have some that are decorative. And so I like the aesthetics. It looks great in my apothecary. So again, just to reiterate, don't go out and buy every herb that you read about. Number 2, think about your family. What is your family going to be using the most? And think about that before you make purchases. And another thing before you make purchases, go out and forage. See what you have growing around you, or see what you have available to you. Even if you don't have property, is there somebody around you who will let you go forage on their property? So those are just some points that I wanted to address, because I think that you can go out and spend tons of money on all of these things, and in the end you could end up with jar-fulls of plants that you're never going to use. So it has been very beneficial for me to think about my family, think about what I have on my property, and think about my storage space as well. So I hope this encourages you to start your apothecary. I hope it encourages you to kind of think about and plan out before you make some of these purchases. And that not only that, but it encourages you to start foraging, because you know what? There's so many beneficial things around you that you probably never knew were there. So I hope this was helpful, and that you can begin your journey with herbs. And I will catch you on the next video.